A bureaucratic breakdown, high absentee of officers, and an idiot mayor. Mayor Bill de Blasio said this week he is making some very intense changes with an emergency plan to fix Rikers. Now, folks, Mayor de Blasio, when he first came into office, said he was going to work on fixing Rikers. Now that several politicians have gone into Rikers on a tour September 13th, 2021, and made a tour of Rikers and discovered some things, they are asking the governor of New York to please take Rikers out of the hands of Mayor de Blasio. But I'm going to tell you something. Mayor de Blasio has disrespected the correctional officers and their job. And also those politicians that took that tour and they want to release a lot of inmates now and fix Rikers, they disrespect officers as well. You know, everything is blamed on the officers. Well, we know that there's been poor management at Rikers. There's no doubt about that. But the writing's been on the wall for the last 3-4 years. I mean, I've been watching from down here in Florida, reading articles for the past 3 or 4 years of officers being attacked at Rikers. Equipment, not enough equipment for the officers. Officers shorted, big staff shortages. Some officers are working 30-hour shifts is what I've been told. Okay? I can't say for sure, but I've been told some officers are working 30-hour shifts because so many officers are calling in sick. Now, in Mayor de Blasio's plan, his super duper intense change plan that he decided now all of a sudden to do after politicians took a tour of Rikers. Now he wants to punish those officers for calling in sick. Let's hold up a minute now. You know, I'm not a professor, so I can't give you big fancy words, but I can say that before you jump in there with your intense plan to make changes, don't start disciplining officers until you sit down with those officers and ask them what's wrong. Don't sit in your ivory tower mayor's chair and start disciplining these officers until you yourself find out exactly what's going on. Staff shortages are overworking these officers to death. And the only way out, and listen, I understand, as a manager, okay, you have to look, say, I need my people here. But how much can your people take, folks, when you're working 30-hour shifts? Why am I talking about this today? 2 people contacted me this morning. They were up early, 5:30. Hey, what's your take on this thing in Rikers? Well, yes, I'm just a Florida boy down here doing in Florida Corrections, retired from Florida Corrections. But the writing's on the wall. Any idiot can see it except Mayor Bill de Blasio, who has just overlooked Rikers for years. They're not helping them get the staff they need. They're not helping them get the equipment they need. Conditions are very poor. Yes, everybody's suffering behind the walls, even the inmates. But here is something, and yes, I have a paper in my hand from an article. I want to get it right. This bothers me as well. Gonzalez Rojas is a senator, a Democrat from Queens, New York. We were in the intake area, which is completely overrun and completely crowded, stepping over pools of piss, Gonzalez recalled of the visit. A man called me over and pointed to someone who had jumped up on the bars and tried to use a bedsheet to kill themselves. Well, someone was an inmate. I called a guard over. I think the inmate was okay. Now, you know, I'm not big on names. I'm retired. Call me what you want to call me. But, you know, I called a guard over. Look, you're a Democratic senator. Can you have a little respect? Call these people correctional officers, law enforcement officers, something professional, which they are. They went to school. and had to graduate a very intense, I'll use de Blasio's words, intense academy to complete this academy to become a correctional officer. Come on now. So we have de Blasio wanting to punish the officers. We have this Democratic, and I say Democrat because she is, it makes no difference to me, Democrat, Republican, let's just get this fixed. But this Democrat from Queens, calling them guards, and wanting to let a bunch of inmates out of Rikers. Let them out of the jail. Let them out of the jail. Let them out. Let them back on the streets, right? That's the answer to fixing this problem? I don't think so. The politicians are fighting for inmates to be freed from inhumane, dangerous, and illegal conditions plaguing Rikers Island. Listen, I'm not going to say that there's not a big problem there. I'm not going to sit here and say that the conditions are probably poor. I believe that. I don't think freeing people who have committed crimes and not finished their sentence yet is the right answer either, but there's been a bill put in to free a lot of them. It's already passed everything. It just needs the governor of New York to sign it. The bill passed both the Assembly and the Senate, and is now waiting for the governor's signature that would release inmates with technical violations. Now, I'd like to see that bill. They're saying it's for inmates who had technical violations, probation violations. You got to be careful with that as well. What were the inmates on probation for, or the offenders on probation for, before they got rearrested? Some of them are going to have some very dangerous records, I'm sure. Now, the Correction Officers Benevolent Association, Benny Bosico Jr., said at the press conference, let's let all the inmates out and let crime and total mayhem take over New York City. Okay, of course he's saying that with 11 shootings a day, babies getting shot in Times Square, and they want to release more prisoners. Punishing the officers without talking to them, Mayor de Blasio, is not going to fix things. Calling the officers guards, Senator Jessica Ramos, showing no respect for them and caring more for the inmates, is not going to fix things. Yes, let's care for everyone behind the walls, okay? And letting these folks out on the streets without serving their time, is not going to fix anything. If they were on probation and couldn't do their probation, what makes you think freeing them now before their sentence is done is going to help them? They'll laugh their way right out the door. They'll laugh at all you senators. They'll laugh at the mayor. They'll give you the finger. That's what they're going to do. I know you think you're doing a great thing there. You're kind of spitting in the officers' faces here, folks. Why don't you sit down with the officers and sit down with the civilian prison staff as well? Listen to their issues and let them tell you what's happening. The officers who work and deserve more respect at Rikers are saying, we're so short-staffed, we can't control these inmates. And I'm going to tell you something. Some of the liberal issues that you forced onto Rikers, it's your own fault, Mayor de Blasio. It's your own fault, senators. You're wanting to baby the inmates so much, giving them so much leeway. You've caused this, in my opinion, you've caused a lot of these problems at Rikers yourself with being too liberal. I'm not saying be heavy-handed. Of course I'm against abuse of inmates. Of course I'm against inmates not having the things that they need to have to stay healthy. Okay, that's our job. Don't take what I'm saying and twist it like I'm not saying the inmates don't deserve what they are allowed to have. But your liberal tactics have caused these inmates to go wild within that jail in Rikers Island. And it's causing everyone to be sick behind those walls. If an officer has to work 30-hour shifts plus their regular shifts, and you want to discipline them, Mayor, why don't you fix the problem first? Get things back on board, get the ship sailing straight, and then worry about who's calling in sick and take progressive action against those officers. You know, the first thing he says, I have an intense change. I have intense changes, including punishing absentee correctional officers. That's your first remark. Why don't you say I have intense changes, which include speaking with staff members on Rikers, working with them to better the ship, to right the ship, getting them the things they need to properly do their job, fixing the conditions inside Rikers, cleaning it up. You know, politicians know nothing about corrections. Nothing. And they ignore it, just like in this case. This is a perfect example of ignoring. Sticking your head in the sand, pretending like everything's okay at Rikers until this happens. And now, Mayor, you have to take action because the politicians have walked through and found it to be a hellish place. Well, if it's hellish for the inmates, it's just as hellish for the staff members that work there. My opinion, I was asked this morning to give my opinion on this mess. Bureaucratic breakdown, poor management, and I don't even want to jump on the management at Rikers because I don't believe, in my opinion, they've been given the tools to run this place correctly. And if I'm wrong, anybody that sees this, if you happen to see it and you are working at Rikers, tell us, is management to blame as well? Or is it higher than your management there at Rikers? Is it outside of the hands? Or is management's hands at Rikers tied? Let me know, folks. That's my good old plain talking opinion that I was asked by a couple of people to give today about what's going on at Rikers. Let us know down here. We're all watching. Feeling bad for you officers and prison staff members at Rikers. We're feeling bad for you down here in Florida and other places. Now, it's not only one person here in Florida asked me to give my opinion, and another person up in Maryland asked me to give my opinion. Hey, I'm down here in Florida, I know, but we see what's going on up there, and it's not pretty. Let us know your thoughts. Thank you very much. Gary York, True Prison Stories.